Hello and welcome to the Grand Line Review, your source for everything One Piece. My name is Liam and One Piece is getting back to normal, sort of. But we have just received 18 pages of majesty, and the out-of-context summary for chapter 1046 is as follows. Earth, fire, wind, water, and for reasons, lightning. I almost feel like I'm summoning Captain Planet just by reading this chapter. If Captain Planet was shorter, fatter, and much less aesthetically pleasing. But regardless of all of the things I just said, Raizo is our true hero, just as is Yunguls, Sophie 18, and Marsh McMallow, all three of whom are my personal heroes for subscribing to the Grand Line Review, which will result in consistent injections of One Piece culture being administered directly into their YouTube feeds. And if you want to be our next subscriber of the day, then hit the button and please do say hi in the comments below if you are a new member of the Grand Fleet. Welcome. Alright, we're going to start with Luffy versus Kaido because what the crap. The final page of this chapter has me once again questioning everything I thought I knew about Luffy's abilities, which to be fair, after the awakening was never much. But still, this dude is pulling a full Zeus and just grabbing lightning now. At least I'm assuming he's grabbing it. I suppose it's also possible that he's conjuring it like he does with the Red Hawk flames. But either way, we are looking at a whole new level of Luffy. And it really does feel like he's only limited by his imagination. And if that simple monkey brain says, grab the lightning and throw it at the fish, then his devil fruit replies, sure thing, boss man. Something I really loved though was the beginning of the chapter because it gave us a moment I felt I needed. A sort of confirmation that yes, this is still Luffy. Because Sunasha does a bit of an Abe Simpson style of reminiscing on the good old days. Before we hard cut to Luffy who says, I'm Monkey D. Luffy, and I'm gonna be the king of the pirates. Almost forgot the most commonly spoken words in One Piece. But no Joy Boy, no Sun God, no Fate, no nothing. Just a wildly driven boy striving to achieve his dream amongst the storm of destiny swirling around him. And it was nice because it brought things back down to earth, amongst all of the epic god talk and mythical revelations. Because in my opinion, the only way this works going forward is for Luffy to either never realize or never care about how ridiculously special he actually is. Fight battling ensues, and I love the spread of Kaido attacking Luffy, followed by Luffy attacking Kaido, in very similar manners as well. Kaido's club kind of schwallops into Luffy's rubber body, and then Luffy's fist similarly schwallop right back into Kaido's now apparently rubber body. It looks like it really hurt though, because my initial impression of this panel was surely this is not the most effective way to do things. Luffy's great advantage has always been that rubber can adapt and to some degree absorb attacks. But whatever is happening seems to have the opposite effect with Kaido. His body reacts as if it's rubber, except the impact seems to hit harder. And maybe this is just a really great way of getting around his impenetrable body. Impenetrable is surprisingly hard to say, what a word. But maybe this is a way of getting around that. To be changing the very nature of what his body is. Because Kaido's greatest defense isn't haki or anything, it's just what he naturally is. He's just built different. I'll also say that Kaido seems oddly calm, all things considered. In fact, at the very end of the chapter, he's grinning like a 50-year-old man who, against all odds, has managed to pick up a 19-year-old at a bar after 20 years of bitter social failure. Which is exactly what happened because Kaido is 59, so he's more than this many Luffy's old. Moving on to the main dish of the chapter though, this was a prime moment for seafood enthusiast Raizo. Which is actually true according to the Viviacard data book, his favorite food is fish cake. Fish cake is also one of the primary ingredients in a pot of Odin, just as Raizo was a primary ingredient to the real fictional Odin. And I only go to the trouble to point that out because that's very much the heart of this chapter. Mr. Ninja Man Raizo fulfilling the legacy of Odin. The filling part of the fulfilling being rather literal in this case. And I thought this was fantastic. I love the way that Oda connects these threads from past to present. You know, Raizo being traumatized by not being able to stop a fire in the past, leading to his own personal growth, and now that life experience, just like his face, is big. I will say that without Jinbei, I don't know how or even if this whole endeavor would have been effective. It's a very bold maneuver to unleash a raging ocean torrent indoors, and sure, it could have saved people from being burnt to death, but it may just have replaced that unfortunate fate with a similarly unfortunate fate of drowning to death. And I suspect that a lot of people, well, maybe not a lot, definitely not the majority, but still quite a few, I suspect there's a cohort of some very loud online fans who will have absolutely hated this chapter, because we're focusing on something that isn't the amazing punch fighting on the roof. To be fair to them, I think it's currently impossible for any individual story thread to be more compelling than Luffy versus Kaido right now, but we do have quite a bit to wrap up elsewhere regardless, and you know, it's probably better to do it now than not now. And upon reflection, I only enjoy this chapter more and more, because it's not just a culmination of Raizo's dedication to Odin, it's a culmination of Raizo in general. This chonk ninja is probably my favorite of the vassals. He has that perfect combination of action, comedy, and drama. drama. All of the things it is that I am looking for. And he's actually responsible for one of my personal most memorable moments reading One Piece, which was on Zo when the Mink leaders declared that Raizo was safe. To this day, that remains one of the craziest plot twists, accompanied by a deep, deep emotional cut. The Mink struggled and suffered for 5 whole days, ready to throw away their lives, all for the sake of one times Chonk Ninja. And the dedication that the Mink tribe put in has really paid off in chapter 1046, because now it's time for that one Chonk Ninja to not only save the entire Mink tribe, but the entire Raid Alliance, which is paying back all of the suffering that the Minks endured with significant interest. And I guess that's the thing about chapter 1046. It doesn't satisfy our immediate needs of seeing rubber men wacky shenanigans with dragon and fish and stuff. It doesn't do the things it is I tried to say, but it shows the growth of the seed that was planted back during the Zo arc in early 2016. I guess it's kind of like watching a tree grow. If you see it every day for 6 years, it'll look like nothing's happening at all. But when you compare the day you planted that seed to the tree 6 years later, it turns out that quite a bit has happened. Which is why some of the internet is all like, why are we wasting our time with this nothing? Because it doesn't feel overly significant in the moment. But when you look at the progress that this character, this 20-year in-world conflict, and this whole saga has made, then everything ties together and pays off absolutely beautifully. Plus, it gave Jinbei a great hero moment, and he can always do with more of those. As a seasoned pirate but rookie Straw Hat, I'm always excited and curious to see how Oda uses Jinbei. He was a very natural solution to this issue, and it proudly displays how much more dangerous and amazing the Straw Hats have become with his presence. Although I guess he still has yet to technically become a Straw Hat because they haven't done the toast. But given that Jinbei is in Film Red as a Straw Hat, he's more than locked in. So it really was a sort of friendly collision of elements that came together, which is the definition of the word collision, to prevent complete disaster. One thread from the Odin side of things, and another thread from the Luffy side of things, entwining and weaving to form a nice woolen jumper of not horrible burning death. Things though, more things. Lots of other things in chapter 1046, because I honestly don't know how long it's been, but this is the first chapter in what feels like potentially a year where all of the Straw Hats have actually been featured in that same group of 18 pages. I feel like we're always featuring maybe 2 or 3 in this chapter and then another couple in the next, but all of them were in 1046, which was really nice because getting that whole crew vibe is very rare, particularly with the staggering amount of characters we have to focus on in Onigashima. Even if some of them are unconscious and on the verge of death, rather expectedly, Oda is still giving away nothing in regards to Zoro. He's still alive, albeit barely, but this Grim Reaper stuff, well look, it's going to need to wait until a bit later. Sanji is also back up and running, but the best part about seeing him is that if you look carefully, he's carrying the mouse on his shoulder. I think the mouse's name is Chuji, but it's a lesser scale Raizo moment because Chuji looks exactly like the rat that Sanji cooked a meal for as a child, and it reinforces that amongst all of this inner turmoil, he hasn't lost himself, and that this is still the same old Sanji that we know and love, and that apparently mice and rats know and love. So the fact that Chuji is choosing to be on Sanji's shoulder instead of in the hands of his owner is a really subtle but incredible touch. And now I suppose Scratchman Apu is also worth mentioning maybe, if only because I'm kind of uncertain about where we go with him from here. We're very much in the end game of Onigashima now. The fights are done by Luffy versus Kaido, and we've moved on to that point where we solve the big climactic disaster. But the noisy flower that is Scratchman Apu still has yet to properly bloom. I mean, let's try following this story. So he starts by joining Kid, then betraying Kid, then joins the Beast Pirates, then betrays the Beast Pirates to align with Drake, before swiftly betraying Drake. And now it looks like he's about to start a fight with his one last ally. And maybe that's what we're leading to. The fact that even though the fire is now out, Scratchman Apu is still hard at work burning all of the bridges in his life, and that may come to some sort of cathartic downfall. Because of all of the worst generations, Scratchman Apu is really the one who embodies betrayal most. Even more so than Blackbeard, I'd argue, because, at least Teach is honorable with his own crew. But characters like Hawkins flip sides following defeat. Drake's betrayal to Kaido was never really a betrayal because he was always working for Sword. But Apu, that guy, he is the only one who shows no shame or even a greater purpose for betrayal beyond what personally serves him best. Something else I do want to point out during this whole catch-up portion though is Usopp. And I can't show this because I'm trying to stop using manga panels to hopefully be taken off the copyright strike radar, but there is a point in this chapter where I swear Usopp is doing the cartoony eye pop, the bleh. It's right after his flower catches on fire, and this is very small, so it could be the regular Oda eye pop, but to me it looked an awful lot like the Luffy Toon effect, which would be fascinating if that's what it was. Because then the discussion expands into, is this Luffy having an effect on Usopp from so far away? Or is this wacky Toon pop just stylistic choice by Oda and not actually connected to Luffy's fruit. I guess it's possible, and the questions continue. Meanwhile, the greatest source of continuing drama in this chapter is the short segment of Momo and Yamato. I do feel like we've been milking this for probably about half a year now, but it feels like we are finally getting to that make or break point of Onigashima going yeah and falling. And I think that makes sense because right now we are in disaster control mode. Oda spent quite a bit of time building up layers and layers of threats, like the fire, Kanjuro's demon, the bombs, and then one by one we've just solved those problems. The final one of which is the island crashing into the flower capital. I mean, I guess it's not the final one. Like the final one would be Kaido, but this is like the penultimate big problem thing. The one designed to give Momonosuke his hero moment. Because in the end, Wano is the story of Momo and the vassals, so I suppose we can very shortly expect to see Kozuki Momonosuke summon up all of his strength and do something worthy of a shogun. Cover story time now, and I don't always talk about these, but this time we have some incredibly intriguing developments. We have not one, but 2 times won fearsome intruders in Chocolate Town, the area of Whole Cake Island governed by Charlotte Pudding. And I guess it's hard to know what to think about this, because on the one hand, every time a silhouette shows up in One Piece, the fanbase they lose their minds and jump to incredibly epic and world-changing conclusions. For example, with this cover story, a few weeks ago there was a theory spreading that the Blackbeard pirates had infiltrated Whole Cake Island, which definitely isn't a new idea, but it saw a resurgence, and so now the predominant thought is that these are 2 members of said Blackbeard pirates, or 2 members of the Revolutionary Army, or the Marines, or the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. However, I'm quite wary, especially because this is a cover story, that maybe these 2 silhouettes could be a bit of a red herring. You know, Oda creating this intimidating pair of people-looking things, only to reveal them to be like, it's Captain Hamburger Face and Vice Captain Lettuce Hair or something. Kind of like the germ pirates that rocked up as part of Capone's cover story. With that said, I am really hoping it's something bigger. Because even though Big Mom and like half of the Charlotte siblings are missing, infiltrating Totterland is still not an easy task. I think probably the most undesirable possibility is that this may be one of those situations where Oda leaves this thread lingering and just doesn't get back to it for a very long time. Which is possible because not all cover story plot points get solved within those stories. And maybe it even becomes a Crocus style scenario, where we still don't know who visited him on the cover of chapter 631. You know, that blonde-haired figure who was wearing the hat that was from Wano. It's been 11 years of real-world time now, and we still don't know who that person was. We don't even have a slight clue other than the Wano hat. So all I can say is that the Whole Cake Island cover story has piqued my interest, and I'm anxiously awaiting where it goes from here. But no waiting for you, because here's our next video, so I look forward to seeing you there. Go click it.